Oh yeah, Diddy got a podcast. All right, breaking news, everybody. I told you all I would not be covering this Charlie Kirk fiasco anymore unless or only when there is major or breaking news. And 100% this is breaking news. Buckle up for this episode because I would argue that this is not only breaking news because of what it implicates, but I would also argue that this is breaking news because this is the very thing that not just me, many of us together collectively have been saying for at least 3 months that we're going to guess that now all of a sudden they said they don't have footage of arresting Tyler Robinson. Well, additional information has now come out as well. Shout out to Project Constitution. He tagged me in this morning. It says, breaking, Washington County claims zero body cam footage exists of Tyler Robinson's surrender. That means every arresting deputy broke Utah state law on September the 11th. The cover up in Washington County just reached mathematically impossible levels of absurdity. But before we get into that, let me remind you all of some additional information that's going to be important to keep in mind as we read through this breaking news. Hit the like button on your way in. So yes, there is an 18-minute audio that we're going to take a listen to that's extremely important to hear out. But before we listen to that, let's go up here and read this here. It says breaking CBS News GRAMA appeal proves the Discord confessions of Tyler Robinson is fake. Undeniable proof Tyler was in custody on September the 11th at 6:25 p.m. And again, this is something that Baron Coleman and a couple other people, we've already discussed this, but I want to remind you all of the details of this so that we can sort of transition into this new information. The timeline of the official narrative just completely collapsed. The smoking gun confession that the media has been parading around is a mathematical and physical impossibility, and we have the documents to prove it. The establishment wants you to believe that Tyler Robinson logged into Discord at 7:57 p.m. on September the 11th and typed the words, "It was me." This is just one massive there's just one massive problem. He was already in police custody without his phone. Props to investigator Baron Coleman for being the first to point out this discrepancy. But now we have the undeniable documented proof. Here's the absolute nail in the coffin for the Discord confession lie. Document 1, the 6:25 p.m. Miranda rights, as Barron pointed out, in the defense team's discovery filing attached above, it explicitly shows the timestamp for Tyler Robinson's encounter with law enforcement at 6:25 p.m. The transcript shows him being actively read his Miranda rights at 6:25 p.m. He explicitly declined to be interviewed without an attorney present. The reality, once you are in custody and being Mirandized, your devices are seized. There is zero chance Tyler Robinson was hanging out in an interrogation room, logging into Discord an hour and a half later. Document 2, the September 11th booking sheet for the operatives trying to spin the narrative that Robinson wasn't actually arrested until September the 12th. Look at the official Utah County Sheriff inmate booking sheet. Arrest date 9/11/2025. And I keep telling people that's very symbolic. The people that Charlie Kirk was involved with, a lot of his funders and donors, it's not a coincidence that it happened on 9/10 and then the quote unquote arrest took place on 9/11. But I digress. Arrest location was outside Utah County. He surrendered in Washington County before being transferred. The cover up, the CBS appeal, and the missing video. But wait, there's more. CBS filed an appeal on January 21st, 2026, demanding the release of the surveillance video of Tyler's surrender at the Washington County Sheriff's Office. CBS specifically requested the footage recorded between 6 p.m. on September the 11th and 1 a.m. They know exactly when he walked through those doors. Washington County originally tried to claim the video was quote unquote gone and no longer available. Now, Lonnie Person, the director of Utah State Records, has apparently reviewed the footage, but is denying appeals to release it to the press. Why hide the video? Because the moment that surrender footage goes public, the 7:57 p.m. Discord confession is officially exposed as a complete fabrication planted by someone else. If Tyler didn't send the Discord messages, who had his phone? Who wrote the confession? And why is the state of Utah fighting so hard to keep the surrender tape locked away? All right, boom. Now, as we transition to the really big breaking news, I want to remind everybody that just a few months ago, what did a lot of us theorize or quote unquote figure what probably ended up happening? That a lot of footage that they claim to have of Tyler Robinson, all of a sudden they won't be able to find it. One of those, which one could argue is the most important, Tyler taking the shot. We said months ago, let me guess. At some point, they're going to lose the footage, or it's going to be some so grainy that you can't really tell who it is. They're not going to be able to produce any footage of Tyler taking the shot and pow and Charlie Kirk. And I still think that we're headed towards that direction with this breaking news. So it says the cover up in Washington County just reached mathematically impossible levels of absurdity. If you thought the quote unquote missing CCTV footage was a red flag, wait until you hear what they just admitted on the record in a state appeals hearing. We have the audio and we are calling total BS. In a recent GRAMA public records appeal hearing between Scripps News and Washington County, the media demanded the release of the body cam footage showing Tyler Robinson walking into the sheriff's office to surrender on the evening of September the 11th. When the hearing director asked Washington County's representative, Mr. Snow, to address the body cam request, his response was chilling. He says, and I quote, "There was a search made for body cam footage and there was none." Y'all, that's a really big deal because partially because we've been saying for months, where's the body cam footage? When they said Charlie's body was hanging out of the car, where's the body cam footage? When they said that Tyler got arrested, where's the body cam footage? When they said that Tyler apparently took this shot, all the cameras on campus, where's the footage? When the officers were searching for the gun, where's the body cam footage? Even if it has nothing to do with Tyler Robinson actually being on camera, or we expect to see him on camera, where's just the miscellaneous body cam footage from the officers? I would like to see the the glasses footage if Charlie's team truly did have glasses that had cameras on them, which isn't an absurd thing to believe. It's highly likely that they did. Why can't we see that footage? Yeah, that's what I want to know. The quote unquote double deletion coincidence. Let's get this straight. First, Washington County tells the public that the CCTV surveillance video of Tyler walking into the lobby with his parents is magically gone and no longer available. Now they are claiming on the legal record that not a single officer had their body cam rolling when a high profile suspect surrendered to their custody. Really? That is impossible because it's illegal. Here's why their claim is a complete physical and legal impossibility. If there is genuinely no footage, then every single officer involved in that intake committed a coordinated violation of both department protocol and state law. Utah state law under Utah Code 77-7A-104, activation and use of body-worn cameras, subsection 4 explicitly mandates an officer shall activate the body-worn camera prior to any law enforcement encounter or as soon as reasonably possible. Taking a suspect into custody is the textbook definition of a law enforcement encounter. Furthermore, subsection 10 states that if an officer fails to activate the camera, they must document the reason in a written report. Washington County Sheriff's policy under their own internal field operations policy manual, section 225-2 or .2, BWCs must be in active mode. Body-worn cameras must be in active mode during encounters to ensure accountability and transparency. Are we really supposed to believe that on the evening of September the 11th, every single Washington County deputy involved in this massive arrest conveniently decided to break department policy and Utah state law by consciously turning off the cameras before greeting Tyler Robinson and his family? Absolutely not. They are either lying to the appeals director about the existence of the video, or they are engaged in a coordinated illegal cover-up to hide what happened at 6 p.m. Why? Because the moment that footage is released, it proves Tyler was in custody and without his phone long before the fake "it was me" Discord confession was posted at 7:57 p.m. They are terrified of the timeline, demand the written reports, demand the tape. Well, we've been demanding this for the longest, but let's take a listen to this audio, man.
Good morning. Is it Miss?
Yes, thank you.
Great. And I'm assuming you're here to represent Miss Gleehoff.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. Detail that was provided about.
I think that is everybody for this hearing.
Okay, great.
I think that is everybody for this hearing.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rebecca. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Government Records Office hearings this morning. Just want to go ahead and make sure that I
hear this.
I think that is everybody for this hearing.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rebecca. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Government Records Office hearings this morning. Just want to go ahead and make sure that I can hear everyone. Our first item on the agenda is hearing appeal number 2025-131. It's Evan Cohen of CBS News versus Washington County. And we have intervening parties, Utah County, as well as Tyler Robinson. So let's go ahead and have each of the parties go ahead and make their appearance. Mr. Cohen, can you turn on your mic there and just make sure we can hear you okay?
Good morning. I'm Evan Cohen. I'm with a news editor at CBS News, and joining me is Kimberly Sullivan. She is counsel with CBS News.
Great, thank you. And it's Cohen. Sorry if I mispronounced it.
Everyone always gets it wrong. Don't worry.
Okay, got it. All right. And for Washington County?
Good morning. Devin Snow for Washington County.
Morning, Mr. Snow. And for Utah County?
Morning, Director. Katrina Cole with Utah County Attorney's Office.
Great, good morning, thank you. And for Mr. Robinson?
Thank you, Director. Stacy Visser on behalf of Mr. Robinson.
Excellent. Well, I think we're all here. So this will be a little bit of a different proceeding as far as how we normally, operate. We typically have each party take up to 5 minutes for an initial presentation, and then I have questions, and then we have like 5 minutes for rebuttal and conclusion. I think with the intervening parties, I want to make sure that you have sufficient time as well. I don't anticipate that a full 5 minutes for each intervening party will be necessary, but I will certainly grant additional time if that's necessary, and I will allow each of the intervening parties to respond as well. So we should start by placing Mr. Cohen under oath for this proceeding. Mr. Cohen, do you swear that the testimony you'll give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I do.
Great, thank you. And I don't know if Ms. Sullivan intends to call you as a witness, but I thought I would take care of that up front just in case. Everyone else, I assume, are attorneys and subject to the rules of professional conduct, et cetera, et cetera. So no need to swear you in. We will I will say up front, I have read all of the materials that were submitted. I do appreciate the very thorough briefing that's been provided by all of the parties. And I understand that this, of course, is a very high profile matter. And so I really appreciate the submissions that were made. We'll go ahead and start then with Ms. Sullivan. I assume you're representing Mr. Cohen. You have up to 5 minutes. And just to note, there is a handy traffic light there that will help you keep track of the time. All right, go right ahead.
Very helpful. Thank you, Director, for taking the time to hear our appeal. Good morning. I'm an attorney for CBS News, and I'm presenting this argument on behalf of Evan Cohen, an editor for CBS News, who is appealing the county's decision in this matter. You have the request and the procedural history before you, but the substance of the request is as follows. A copy of the surveillance video from the lobby of the Washington County Sheriff's Office in Hurricane, Utah from 6:00 p.m. Mountain Time on September 11th, 2025, to 1 a.m. Mountain Time on September 12th, 2025, in addition to any surveillance video of Tyler Robinson waiting with his parents and any interaction in the interrogation room. Washington County denied the request preliminarily and upheld that denial, stating that the release of the records could reasonably interfere with the ongoing investigation, could reasonably interfere with criminal enforcement proceedings and the criminal prosecution of the subject, and would endanger depriving the subject to a fair trial or impartial hearing. The Utah Supreme Court has held that courts revealing GRAMA requests should apply the legislature's clear and preeminent intent to favor public disclosure when countervailing interests are of equal weight. With regard to records that Mr. Cohen has requested, the public interest in disclosure outweighs any potential implications for the ongoing investigation of Mr. Robinson or his right to a fair trial. Significantly, on September 17th, 2025, Washington County Sheriff Nate Brooksby gave a public press conference during which he spoke at length about Mr. Robinson's time in the Washington County Sheriff's Office the night of September 11th, 2025. Sheriff Brooksby disclosed extensive details about Mr. Robinson's apparent frame of mind and body language that night, as well as how he and his parents were brought to the office, what they were provided with when they arrived, where they sat, and how lead investigators from Utah County arrived to take him into custody from the interrogation room where he was waiting with his parents. Examples of details provided by Sheriff Brooksby include the following. So, quote, part of the negotiation and getting him to bring himself in was that we would treat it as delicate and as soft as possible to make him feel comfortable, to where he would show up at my office, and that's exactly what happened. Basically, it was about 2.5 hours waiting in a room, not communicating with the suspect. End quote. Quote, we could facilitate a peaceful, calm, relaxed surrender, make him comfortable for a couple hours, make sure he has water, no communication until the lead investigators arrive, end quote. Stating about Mr. Robinson, quote, he was sitting on a very comfortable couch with a water bottle in his hand, not restrained. He was again cooperative, somber, quiet, end quote. There are many other examples from this press conference that are similar. Given Sheriff Brooksby's public descriptions of the specific people, areas, and times for which Mr. Cohen is requesting video footage, there is no discernible reason to withhold production of these records in order to protect either the ongoing investigation of Mr. Robinson or his right to a fair trial. Disclosure of these records would provide visual context to the already described conduct, apparent frame of mind, and body language of the suspect in a crime that continues to command national attention, as well as to how he surrendered to law enforcement and conducted himself with his parents while in custody. Again, also already described publicly.
But again, no footage of this. No footage of this. This is very strange. Why would you not have footage any footage of this man doing this. This is more so, again, to me, in my opinion, this buys into the narrative of anybody believing that this was supposed to end with them unaliving Tyler Robinson, maybe in the shootout. This wasn't supposed to go this far. I don't think they prepped for things to go this far. So they're sort of just winging it, which is why there's no body cam footage to show, because they're building their case as they go, in my opinion, allegedly.
The public interest in disclosure of the records significantly exceeds the risk of any negative implications for the ongoing investigation or Mr. Robinson's right to a fair trial, and therefore the balance must weigh in favor of public disclosure. Even if not all relevant records can be released, there are at least some that qualify, given the many public disclosures by law enforcement. The law provides for records to be segregated to allow for the release of non-exempt material. That can certainly be done here. Disclosure of the footage would not compromise law enforcement's ability to pursue the case. Instead, it would reduce speculation, prevent the spread of misinformation, and ensure that the public receives an accurate understanding of the facts.
Bingo. Of course it would. That's what. And now we're hearing a legal professional say the very things that we've been saying. Of course it would. How could it make things worse for him? That doesn't even make sense. Before they was arguing it could hurt the prosecution. Now they're arguing that it could hurt Tyler Robinson. How?
In this way, release serves both the public interest and the integrity of the ongoing investigation. Thank you.
The integrity is in the trash.
Thank you. I did want to just throw out one quick question, because I think probably other parties will want to address it as well, just for you, Ms. Sullivan. And that is, doesn't the extensive detail that was provided about, by the sheriff about the surrender kind of mitigate any need to release the actual video? I mean, you're arguing the other side, but I think it cuts both ways. What's your response to that?
Well, if I can let Mr. Cohen speak to that as well, about the advantages of seeing the visual record as well in order to inform the.
Yeah, hold on. Was that the judge suggesting that simply because they were told what happened, that should suffice and should not necessarily require them to have to actually see the very things happening on footage that is consistent with what they were verbally told? That's an absurd question, unless there's some sort of legal realm that I'm not understanding here. That's a ridiculous thing to ask, in my opinion.
Public, would it be all right if Mr. Cohen
Absolutely.
added
Just
anything
briefly.
to that?
Well, I can tell you that CBS News, we're a visual medium, and we would like to have visual confirmation of what the sheriff spoke of at the press conference
Right.
on September 11th.
Right.
We'd like a visual record of it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. It's my understanding that Washington County tended to defer to Utah County as far as presentation. Is that correct, Mr. Snow?
Correct.
Okay, great. Then we will go ahead and proceed to you, Ms. Cole, for up to 5 minutes.
Thank you, Director. While public interest in records can justify the release of otherwise protected records under GRAMA, in this case, the public interest means that the release of the requested records actually puts Utah County's investigation of Tyler Robinson and Mr. Robinson's right to a fair trial more at risk. From the moment of the September 10th, 2025 incident, there has been attention on this case nationally and internationally, with even some of the biggest names in the world drawing attention to it. And there have been dozens of news articles and thousands upon thousands of social media posts, at first speculating who was responsible for Charlie Kirk's shooting, and then analyzing the potential motives of Mr. Robinson once Utah County opened a case against him. Conspiracy theories have also been put forward by many people. And while all this attention has been gathering, Utah County still needs the space necessary to conduct our investigation and protect the information in that investigation so that the case and the potential jury pool for the trial are not tainted. As we outlined in our brief, the video footage requested by the petitioner is of a suspect in an aggravated murder proceeding in a police interrogation room after the suspect voluntarily surrendered himself to law enforcement. These records include recordings of police officers interacting with and questioning the suspect. Release of the records recently could be expected to interfere with the investigations undertaken by Utah County and other governmental entities, as the record contains statements the suspect made to law enforcement officers. The investigation into the shooting and the suspect's actions are still ongoing at this point. Additionally, release of the records would create a significant danger of depriving the suspect of his right to a fair trial or impartial hearing, since viewing the record would risk tainting the potential jury pool. Because the record contains evidence of the suspect's interactions with law enforcement officers, portions of it may be introduced at trial. The record also may contain evidence and statements that a judge may rule as are in at trial.
I felt like up into that ending part, I felt like she gave circular reasoning. We shouldn't release the body cam footage of him talking to officers because it's evidence that he's talking to officers, and that could be used in court. It could even hurt the defendant's case. How? We're still wanting to hear how you said because the judge could view this evidence as inadmissible. I'm still not understanding. This is, even if the public is not allowed to see it, why hasn't the defense been able to see it? They're a part of the trial, aren't they? CBS, these news and these media networks are typically allowed to see these sort of deals, even if they have to sign paperwork, something like an NDA, promising that they won't release the footage, promising that they won't reveal what they saw from the footage, but it adds credibility to the case. You're saying nobody can see it but the prosecution. That doesn't make sense.
Publicizing evidence, especially if that evidence is deemed admissible outside of the trial process, risks tainting that process and by extension the jury. Even the portions of the video where the suspect is not interacting with law enforcement cannot be released without the risk of depriving Mr. Robinson of his right to a fair trial or impartial hearing, since the very nature of the video shows Mr. Robinson surrendering himself to a law enforcement officer.
That literally makes no sense. Again, I don't mean this sarcastically. Maybe I'm missing something. You just said, if I heard you correctly, even if the video footage does not show Tyler Robinson himself, you all still can't release it because the video footage in itself is still the nature of Tyler Robinson surrendering. Did I hear that correctly?
As Ms. Sullivan mentioned, it is a commonly known fact. It may have been described publicly, but there is a difference between knowing someone turned themselves into law enforcement and seeing that the person turned themselves into law enforcement, especially when considering the impact seeing such a thing would have on a potential jury pool. Additionally, in this age where AI can easily alter images and footage, the videos could be altered by members of the public, further impacting Mr. Robinson's right to a fair trial as misinformation is spread.
That makes no sense because we also have technology that could detect if something is AI. Lady, we're in 2026, and it doesn't matter what the public does to the footage after the fact. They can say or do whatever. What matters is the real footage, and if you all have the real footage, that's all that matters. They can alter it and put clown and makeup on his face and put a red nose on him and big clown shoes. But if you all have footage that is the raw original footage and is proof that it's the raw original footage, that's all that matters. I know that they say that metadata data can be altered, but from my understanding, you can always tell what the original footage is by the coding of the footage.
And as mentioned by the director, having a description of what happened lessens the public's interest in these records since they already have an idea of what happened in the interrogation room. And so for these reasons, Utah County requests that the Government Records Office uphold Washington County's denial of access to these records.
She doesn't sound too bright, respectfully. I've been in this position before, professionally in corporate, and what it sounds like to me is she sounds rather young. I would give her late 20s at the latest, maybe early 30s at the latest, but I wouldn't give her that high. I would give her, she sounds like she's probably about 25 or something along those lines. And typically what you find is she's just following marching orders. That's what it sounds like to me, right? They've prepped for this. They've huddled up. They've been given their marching orders, their talking points, and she's just following through. Even if it sounds silly, she's doing what her bosses or somebody else told her to do. Allegedly. That's what it sounds like to me.
Thank you. I will throw one question out there because I think it could be addressed by everyone, but I'll direct it to you first, Ms. Cole, and that's just setting aside the audio, the video itself. How do you think it's substantially different from video of Mr. Robinson sitting in a courtroom?
I think it's because the nature of the video that he is turning himself and surrendering himself to law enforcement, that is seeing that happen is detrimental to his right to a fair trial because it will likely be seen by the jury pool.
So that's what you call, once again, all she did was a word salad there. I need you all to pay attention. That was a word salad. She didn't this is a Kamala Harris type of answer. And I know Kamala Harris is like the poster child for this, even though Kamala Harris is not the first and won't be the last. So it's a politician thing. This happens a lot in corporate, though. When somebody don't know the answer to something, they just say a bunch of words to try to sound smart so they can get further and further away from the question so that by the time they're done talking, doing all this talking, hopefully you're no longer interested, you're confused, or you're just ready to move on, right? Or you think you understand when you really don't. What did she just say that made sense? He asked you, why do you think that the footage of him, turning himself in, how is that really any different from the footage of him sitting in the courtroom, which the public has seen? She says because the nature of the footage of him turning, she just repeated this question back to him.
But you have reviewed the video, I'm
Yes,
assuming,
I have.
correct? Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Snow, I assume you're going to go ahead and defer. We'll go ahead and have Ms. Visser. You can go respond for intervener.
Thank you, Director. I'll keep it brief here. As we put in our briefing, the main concerns here are the continuing nature of the investigation and the enforcement action, which of course is the criminal case. And our own investigation, of course. I think it's well understood that even when criminal charges are filed, the case continues to be investigated. Like, this is built into our criminal justice system. That's why the prosecution has an ongoing duty to disclose evidence as the case proceeds. The other issue that we are concerned about, gravely concerned about, is our client's right to a fair trial. As the director may already be aware, this case has permeated, saturated the market, the media market. And of great value to the media have been images of our client. And a lot of those images in and of themselves have become prejudicial and are at issue in the criminal case. We are currently litigating this issue extensively in the criminal case. So we absolutely believe that providing more images into the public sphere will only create additional harm to our client's right to a fair trial. This is not a case that is going to go away. This is not a case that we're going to be able to weed out all of those prejudicial impressions from images in jury selection. This is going to persist. And the only way to prevent that harm is to not release it. I think the director's question was a good one. Why does the media need the images when they already have a description? I think that the answer is they don't. They want it because they want to circulate more images of my client and create more prejudicial media coverage that will impact my client's right to a fair trial.
Wait, so is this his defense attorney also arguing that oh, okay. I can understand why she would sort of make that argument. But the question I would like to know then is, have you all seen the footage? Have you all seen these additional images? Because if the answer is yes, then all right, fine. Maybe I don't make as big of a deal of it. But even remembering that you all were allegedly hired by the judge or by the prosecution, if that information turned out to be indeed true, then this is still problematic. Maybe the media does have some sort of sinister motives. I don't know. But I know from a selfish standpoint, I would definitely like to see this footage.
So that's our position. We are in agreement with Utah County on this.
Okay, thank you. One question for you, and that is just addressing the 30580 provision regarding booking images. Is it essentially your contention that 30580 applies to everything between taking an individual into custody and booking them into jail?
I don't think that's necessarily true, but in this case, we're talking about what occurred when he was actually taken into custody, like when he was in a custodial setting, in an enforcement area, as opposed to like being on the street and arrested. But we do believe it was part of the ultimate booking process, yes.
Okay, thank you. With that, we will go back to Ms. Sullivan. You have up to 5 minutes for rebuttal and conclusion.
Thank you. I would just like to reiterate that the reasons cited for withholding this material are outweighed by the clear news value and the extraordinary public attention this incident has already generated. Sheriff Brooksby's very detailed descriptions mean that the effect on the ongoing investigation and on Mr. Robinson's right to a fair trial would be negligible. Also, as I stated earlier, even if not all the requested records are able to be released due to the concerns of the county and Mr. Robinson's attorneys, Mr. Cohen would be willing to accept a partial release that includes the records that we argue have already been described. At the very least, the surveillance video from the lobby showing the peaceful, calm surrender described by the sheriff, footage of Mr. Robinson waiting with his parents during.
How could that hurt him? They've already told us that it happened. So it's not like the jury wouldn't have known that already. Seeing it could change something? What are you talking about?
Which he was described as cooperative, somber, quiet. Those should be released. With regard to the arguments of Mr. Robinson's attorney, the release of video footage simply depicting him in the sheriff's office, aside from any statements memorialized in the recordings, would no more violate his rights than the sheriff's descriptions already have. It is too late to put the cat back in the bag when it comes to the public attention this matter is receiving. The press cannot be prevented from reporting on a matter of public interest that public officials have already spoken about extensively. Thank you again, Director Pearson, for taking the time to hear this appeal.
Thank you. Okay. Ms. Cole, I did have one question. Maybe you can address this as part of your conclusion as well. And that's the issue of lobby video. Was there a search made for additional video regarding, the entryway or lobby as it's portrayed?
My understanding is that there was, but I would have to defer to Washington County as they actually maintain the records. It's our interest in protecting the records, but they are the government's entity that maintains those records.
Okay, that probably is better directed to Mr. Snow.
Yes, a search was made for lobby surveillance and there was none.
Okay.
Are we just gonna move on from that? He said there wasn't any. That's problematic. You should be asking, what do you mean there isn't any?
With that, we'll go ahead, Ms. Cole. You have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. It is still very early on in this case. This case could be going on for quite a while. And so the more information, the more images, the more that is out there, the more prejudice that there is, the more potential prejudice there is against Mr. Robinson. Ms. Sullivan argued that because some of this information is already out there, that means that we should put out even more. I think that because we have information out there already, that is why we can't give out any more, is because there's already so much out there that if we put out more and more images, that creates an intensified prejudice against Mr. Robinson. And Utah County, as a prosecuting agency, has a duty to ensure that he has a fair trial, that he is able to be fairly judged by a jury of his peers to decide whether he is guilty or not guilty. And so we ask that these records are protected.
She's not
Thank
making
you.
a strong case at all. She's repeating herself. She's talking in circles. She's wasting air and space, right? All she can, if she literally responded and said, we just feel like releasing more information could hurt his case. It could create prejudice. She could literally just stop it right there, full stop. But she continues to just babble and say the same things 3 different ways. She's talking in circles.
Can you just address real quickly, Ms. Cole, your take on the 30580 and its application to this particular video, which is quite lengthy? And
I don't know that it is exactly, I don't know that if it's an image contemplated under 80 or not, but I do think that some of the protections or some of the rationale for the protection of booking images would apply to this scenario, whatever those interests are. I think it is also possible, though, that the images do fall under 80. That just isn't an issue that I've looked at or that we have traditionally considered these as booking images. But I think that it could certainly extend that far. The protections under 80 could extend to images of somebody in an interrogation room.
okay, thank you. Ms. Visser, we'll go to you.
Thank you, Director. Briefly, I know this issue isn't before the office, the director. We do have concerns in Mr. Robinson's case about the amount of information that was put out by public officials and whether or not that comported with the requirements of GRAMA in the first place. So we are not conceding that those statements were appropriate at all. What we're asking the director to do is not compound the problem, which is to release additional information that is unnecessary given what has already been released.
Which isn't much at all. There's like another 4 minutes left. I'll link in the description to Project Constitution's page. Shout out to Project Constitution. Colin, you're doing great work over there, man. Yeah. My guess here is I don't believe there's footage. I don't believe there's ever going to be footage released. Furthermore, something tells me that we're also not going to see footage of Tyler Robinson actually taking the shot. I think there's going to be more blurry images. Maybe we see another angle or two from the other side of campus or something. But something tells me that this won't actually go anywhere. We've already heard them say, we've already read in the paperwork, they don't plan to use actual, electronic device material in the trial. What? They're only going to use the photos of text messages and Discord messages. They're going to use recreations, different versions of it because it's been destroyed before. So they've recreated it and they're going to use that version of it. But actually proving and using the devices themselves, they're not going to do that for this trial. Why would you do that? Are you afraid that people are going to look into the metadata? That's the only thing I can think of, right? But y'all in the comment section, man, let me know what you all think, and we'll see how this plays out.